gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to another debate, AI in the 11th hour. You just enjoyed nice blue pastel colors, very calming music, but now it's about to get very, very dramatic because we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and its impact on humanity. I might have spoiled this for some of you, but we're going to start off with a bit of historical context, as you might have learned to know about me. That's what I enjoy doing, because there's so many topics to talk about. AI is jumping up from literally every magazine page. It's very sexy. It's ever present. So where does it come from, and how has humanity dealt with the concepts of automation, automatons, work, and so on and so on? So why don't we start in ancient Greece? It's always fun to start in ancient Greece. This is Talos from the very outdated but still relevant Titan movie. And Talos was essentially crafted so that he can do the work of the gods without the gods being tired. Hephaestus, who was the iron maker of the gods, who lived up on Olymp, actually made little automatons for himself to carry various material up Mount Olympus for him because he couldn't be bothered to go up and down. So you can see that the automation of work was very much on the minds of our ancestors. But not just in mythology, in real life as well. This is the Antikythera mechanism, which is well over 2,000 years old. It was used to predict various movements of celestial bodies, eclipses, the cycles of the Olympic Games. And given how some of the things are going in France at the moment, I think that we might be better reverting to analog technology and definitely trusting in it to keep things going in order and on time. Automatons have been a kind of favorite pastime, both serious but fun as well. This was one of the favorite automatons in the age of the Renaissance, an automatic duck that you could feed bread, and poop would come out on the other side. So you can see that science has not always only kind of gone down the serious route of things. And kind of keeping on with the ornithological theme, one of the first ever automatons, actually the first kind of recorded projectile or flying object, was Atticus' pigeon. It doesn't really look like a pigeon, but it was steam-powered. It was funny, actually, because the ancient Greeks and the Romans had the concept of the steam engine. They just didn't find it particularly useful. So this is fascinating that not all innovations have to be relevant. People can know about them, but they might not actually click at the point in time. So there might be certain things to do with artificial intelligence that will only come to light in 500, 2,000 years' time that we might not see as important and interesting right now. And it was definitely the case with more primitive technology, such as the steam engine. Obviously, here in the Czech Republic, who here is Czech? Yes, don't be shy. Yes, proud Golem nation. We are also the nation that actually invented the word robot. So there's a very rich history coming from these lands. But there's also a lot of fraud associated with AI. I mean, we see a lot of very fraudulent startups, a lot of kind of charlatans trying to make money off the hype. And again, this isn't the first time that this has happened when it comes to automata. The Mechanical Turk, who was, it was meant to be a revolutionary puppet during the Renaissance, even Napoleon played the Mechanical Turk. He attempted an illegal move 3 times, and then the Turk kind of swept all the chess pieces to one side, so then he decided to play it properly and still lost. Apparently, he found it amusing and wasn't offended, which doesn't sound too right, knowing Napoleon's nature. But everyone was completely in awe what this Mechanical Turk would do, until they found out a little bit later that there was a dude sitting inside actually moving all the chess pieces. Now, if you recall, one of the biggest breakthroughs of IBM in the world of computer science, and then potentially AI and kind of the computerization of playing games with Deep Blue several decades ago, it's a question of how much of what we see are smoke and mirrors, and how much of it is very, very, very basic reality and maths on steroids. What we're going to be talking about today as well quite a lot is automation, and also trying to make sense of the huge amounts of data that are everywhere around us. We used to do it the good old analog way, like Champollion dying of dysentery, but before he manages to do that, he manages to crack the Rosetta Stone by finding repeating patterns. Several hundred years later, that becomes a lot more difficult during the Second World War and the Nazis, when you have 159 quintillion, which is 18 zeros, combinations for every single letter on the Nazi enigma. Now, if Alan Turing and his friends were trying to decipher that, it would take them several million years, and obviously that's a lot of dead people in World War II. So they decided to make it easier for themselves through decrypting and finding patterns, which in the German case was a repeating weather report and a repeating chanting Heil Hitler. So, the Germans like to keep things very organized in that respect. And latching onto those repeating patterns, they were able to crack this war code, and it shortened the war, some say, by up to 10 years. So you can see that there is a huge repeating pattern as well of the humans not being designed to absorb this amount of information and finding ways to automate that for themselves. You can't see the banter underneath, but it was being bad at drawing hands, me, and AI art generators. We have a new revolution that has come up, which is in the AI generative space. We have most of the content online actually now being generated by AI. We couldn't even deal with the fact that it's being generated by users, and all that already that was overwhelming. And suddenly we have AI generators creating all this content. We also have follow-up questions from this. It's going to make my job easier, or I don't have to make all these presentations that I normally have to do for work that nobody reads anyway. But then what am I being paid for? And that kind of existential dread sets in about what the future of my work actually is. So there are a lot of questions that are popping up, even from these tools that we didn't even have last year at Colors of Ostrava. This was news, and this is a year hence. So we'll be talking about the effects of that on the job market and on the future of work as well. You see a lot of scaremongering, something else we're going to kind of attack and pierce and spearhead today. There's a lot of clickbait going on in media because it's much sexier to talk about Terminator because people are much more likely to click on it than talking about your data classification tool becoming just that little bit more precise. So there is definitely a hype. Media enjoy kind of hyping everything up. But again, it's not the first time in history that this has happened. The electrical wire panic and these types of cartoons, when Edison and Tesla and their current wars were at their most kind of forceful, they had pretty interesting media storms going on as well. Also, by the way, the time that they invented the electric chair, which was used very strongly by Edison as an argument against alternating current. Yet without it, this whole thing wouldn't even be set up with lights. So there is definitely a history of humanity of being afraid of innovations, not quite knowing how to tackle them, and the average person doesn't know what to make of it. So today we'll also aim to give you some pointers where you can start educating yourself in the AI space so that you're not afraid of it and can use it to your benefit. We'll also talk about what AI is and what AI isn't, and the different use cases that you can use AI for. And I just want to talk a little bit about the subject that I love most above anything, which is archaeology. AI has been helping us immensely. And if you think that AI is, again, only for the hard scientists and the hard researchers who only do physics and maths, again, like we had the discussion yesterday about space, that is not the case. We have, for example, recently used AI in the Vesuvius Challenge to, in a non-destructive way, analyze these carbonized scrolls from Herculaneum. And we found out about Plato and his final hours, not only his resting place in the Athens Academy, which is very exciting, but also that he was a bit of a douchebag until his dying moments. He was, even with a high fever, complaining that the female slave that was rented out for him to at least make him comfortable in his final moments was playing off tune and off rhythm. So if she slipped something into his wine, I wouldn't be surprised. Last year, we used AI to find a lost Maya city in the Guatemalan jungle. This is Tikal. You're not always so lucky that stuff actually sticks out of the jungle. A lot of the stuff is lost. It's impenetrable forest, impenetrable tropical jungle. And we use a combination of LiDAR, which you can also find in self-driving cars, attached to the bottom of planes, sending light, basically laser pointers down, and we're able to create these beautiful 3D topographic maps and then basically go and dig and find the real thing. My mum, upon finding this, asked me, doesn't that take the wonder out of archaeology, though? I promise you it doesn't. You still actually have to go and physically dig it up, wade through mud, and sleep in beach tents for 7 weeks, and then pray to God that one of the 17 types of poisonous snakes are not going to come and get you. So again, we're going to be talking about if we can use it in such subjects like archaeology. There's absolutely no limit on where we can use AI. How do we do it well, and how do we make sure it doesn't replace us, but rather augments us? That's going to be the topic of today. But at the same time, and I would like to thank my friend Andre in the crowd for this meme, there you go. Or when is it overkill? Do we really need to use AI for everything? Dell made this beautiful advert that you put the AI in IPA. Perhaps, maybe that's a little bit too much, but we'll see. We'll see because we've got two experts that are going to come and talk to us, not about IPA, but about AI. They're both absolute experts. They've been through it all. They haven't just jumped on the bandwagon yesterday. They're in this game for years and decades, dare I say. So please allow me to welcome on stage Tanya Mahmood, who is a Silicon Valley technology innovator, board member of several tech organizations, and a founder and CEO of VC-funded AI agent management startup called Wayfound AI. Tanya, please come and join me. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And the other person that is joining us is a gentleman who called himself an aspiring flaneur. And that's how he wanted me to describe him, and I think that's amazing, to be honest with you. Chris Valeras, who, beyond being an aspiring flaneur, is a long-term advisor and investor in the tech world, 20 years on Wall Street. Ladies and gentlemen, he has seen it all as a strategy advisor and personally invests in early-stage companies as well and founded his own VC company. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. May I also say that all three of us are hanging out as on Moonshot, so thank you very much for the Moonshot community for supporting us in the crowd. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, let me start at the beginning. Could you please introduce yourselves even deeper than what I managed to do here, and how you came across the AI game and what you actually do in it?
All right.
Please.
So, like Sarah, I am an anthropologist. I have a PhD in anthropology, economic anthropology. And after grad school, instead of becoming a professor, I went into innovation consulting in San Francisco. And through that work, I started doing a lot of digital projects all over the world, and was then hired into Salesforce to build new products, became a product executive there, then hired by Andy Jassy into Amazon Web Services to build a new technology platform for AWS. Then went over to Nextdoor, which is a social media platform for neighbors, working in Western Europe, the United States, and a few other places. And then Future of Work platform. And in all of these companies, we had been doing what we called AI. And it was really machine learning. So the difference between what we were doing at Salesforce in 2014, 2015, and what we're doing today, and of course we had AI-based feed ranking at Nextdoor as well. But if you think about two axes, on the y-axis, you have domain-specific at the bottom, and then generalized at the top. And on the x-axis, you have predictive, and then you have generative. Where we were before really ChatGPT started advancing and really being adopted by a lot of people was that we were in the bottom quadrant where we were doing domain-specific predictive AI. And why that matters is because in order to build anything with AI, you had to have a lot of humans cleanse the data, structure the data, and then feed it into an algorithm that was programmed by humans to find the next best action, to find the next best step. If you use any social media, this is what's happening. The algorithm is predicting the next best piece of content to feed you. What happened when ChatGPT came out is that the world realized that we had not migrated into one of the close quadrants. What we had actually done is leapfrogged. Because we went from domain-specific predictive to generalized and generative. So the data is not cleansed. Nobody is structuring the data. Nobody is actually programming a precise algorithm, right, to actually get you the experiences that we're getting out of generative AI. What is actually happening is we're just dumping a whole bunch of information. There are certain principles that are programmed in there that are kind of in the overall kind of neural network. And then the connections start to emerge. And through those connections, you have something that looks much more like a human intelligence and a human type of conversation and a human type of decision making than you did in that earlier paradigm. So fast forward when ChatGPT came out and I started to play with it, 3.5 came out, I realized, oh my goodness, this is something very different than the AI that I've been working with, and I need to quit my job, which I did, and really study this and really understand what's happening here. And so for a year, I actually was funemployed, working on AI alignment, and met with some of the top innovators in the field to understand how the technology not only worked, but what did it mean, and what were the big problems that we would need to solve. From that, Wayfound was born, because one of the big problems was that before we deal with alignment on a humanity level scale, companies are going to need to learn how to align their AI agents and their AI applications just based on the company level principles. So that's what Wayfound does. So kind of bridging human problems, human questions, and with this new type of technology.
Fantastic, thank you. We're definitely going to go back to those human questions, especially with two anthropologists and a planeur in the debate. But Chris, there's been a lot of misfires with investments like Theranos, for example. How do you kind of navigate the AI space? How do you invest? What do you look for? And how did you come across AI in the first place?
Yeah, my journey is much more prosaic. I was advising the Watson team out of IBM into Bridgewater and then extricating themselves out of Bridgewater. So I was involved in a very financial operation in terms of how to structure the business to create the proper governance and incentives. And in the course, I met some of the leaders, early leaders, the OGs of AI, and I was fascinated by them. And the trade was, in my opinion, a great trade. I will help you with your financial matters if you teach me about AI. And we developed a close relationship, and like most things, once you do one, in my world, you're like halfway to being an expert, right? And so then it was like the next one and the next one. And luckily for me, this was many years ago, long before AI became a thing. And so I felt, to be honest, I got very lucky, because their perspective, Dave Ferrucci's perspective at Elemental, is turning out to be a much more nuanced and, I would say, less hyped view of AI. And we're starting to learn the things now where the whole world went screaming into large language models and what it would do and building their foundational platform off of that. It's turning out that that may not be the best foundation and model. And luckily for me, some of this is luck, I happen to be associated and learning with people that I think have a much better view. And one other story, quick story to tell, that brought Tatiana together and us together with Moonshot is one of Ranji's and I's first finance fellows in the Aspen Finance Leaders Program is Sarah Fryer. And she basically built Square and was running Square, went to Nextdoor, and then she invited me on her board as a member, given my relationship with her. And then Tatiana was at Nextdoor, so that's how I met her. And now Sarah is the CFO at OpenAI, and she will clearly have a much bigger leadership role than that of just CFO. And so, interestingly, the world becomes a very small place, and now, Aspen, Moonshot, the two of us, and OpenAI are now inextricably
And that's
linked.
breaking news, because she just started this week, I believe.
She just started,
Yeah.
yes. So.
Thank you very much. By the way, it's a different Sarah. It's not me. I just have the pro version of ChatGPT. Thank you very much for giving us the basics. I would love to get back to what AI is and, most importantly, what it isn't, and maybe connect that to the use cases that you find it might be most useful in. I mean, we've seen the archaeology use case. There's also the partners of Moonshot platform, the House of Lobkowitz, who use artificial intelligence for digitalizing and making available their collections and basically the digitalization of cultural heritage. So wherever there's data and a will, there's a way. But what do you think is the way with AI, and maybe where should we stay clear of? Where should we maybe not implement it as much, or where it's maybe not going to be as useful?
So the thing to So there are obviously consumer use cases, and then there are business use cases. So maybe we'll take those separately. The thing to remember is one of the big breakthroughs is that, again, this idea that with LLMs, and we can talk about large language models and hype or not, from a linguistic anthropology perspective. But one of the things to really kind of grok and why it's so different is because more than 80% of our data that we have available on the internet and in other places is unstructured data. That is, has not been cleansed, shaped, put into a database where it's structured. So we have only been accessing 20% of the data available to generate new insights. Large language models, in part, are a huge breakthrough because we are now able to access so much more data, like 4x more data, to actually help machine intelligence get trained. And so that is why, in part, the breakthroughs are happening so much more quickly because the data that we had available, we could only use a small fraction of, and now we can use it all. So the use cases from, I'll just talk about from a personal and a business perspective, are places where you have a lot of unstructured data that was very hard to extract insights from. So searching across large unstructured data sets, right? Searching across a huge amount of text, right? Either on the internet, right, which is what we all do when we use ChatGPT or Claude or one of those things. Or in a business context, searching over all of your documents, for example. That is a really easy, first use case. There's a lot of, now, the next step from the search across with large language models is taking action. So now we're seeing that you might be hearing about AI agents. Okay, so AI agents are pieces of software that have agency. They can take action on behalf of their principal, usually a human, but it could be actually another AI agent, and it could be AI agents all the way down, actually. But let's just take a human. A human is the principal. You tell an AI agent to take an action in a system, in another system, and it goes out and does that. Right now, they are not embodied, meaning they're not in robotic or other kind of types of bodies or types of physical forms. They will become embodied very soon, to the extent that the autonomous cars, right, are embodied AI agents. They are not really right now, but they will become that very soon. And if you are going to San Francisco anytime soon, definitely take a Waymo ride. Everybody can now download the Waymo app and just take a ride without any special invitation, because it's an amazing experience. So now we're getting into the idea that AI agents, and remember, agents is not only about taking action, but also having agency, making autonomous decisions. So a principal, a human, can tell an AI agent, hey, I want you to accomplish these goals, and it reasons what are the actions that it needs to take in order to accomplish those goals. And then it can go and perform those goals, either by itself or with the help of other AI agents, okay? So we're getting into a world where we are going to, this is why people think of AI agents as AI workers. Because what do humans do in knowledge work, right? They talk to other people, they interact with other people, they take requests and orders, right, from customers, and then they go and they perform actions, usually by typing into software systems, right, in order to take those actions. And now AI agents can do those things. The reality is that they're not actually workers right now. They're interns, meaning that they need a lot of training, onboarding, supervision, and feedback to work well. It does not require any, in my experience and where I see the research going, It does not require anything over and above the basic neural network architecture. We can have an architectural discussion, but neither one of us is really qualified to truly have the architectural discussion. But, but because we're talking to different people and being trained by different people, we have different perspectives. But nothing really more than the neural network architecture is required, right, to take the next step to becoming full-fledged expert workers. But right now, the AI agents aren't there. So they still need a lot of supervision. You can tell that there's a hype cycle sort of decreasing in terms of people being excited about AI agents in the workplace because companies thought that they were getting fully formed expert workers, and what they got were these like really naive interns that made a lot of mistakes. And so they need management, right? They need really close management. Really quickly, on the consumer side, I think that there is a question of what do humans do best and what does AI do best? This is a very deep question. So yes, you can have an AI girlfriend, and yes, you can have an AI teacher, but is that actually what we desire as humans? Do we want our children to be taught in screens, or do we want children to have great human role models that they interact with as teachers? And I think those are just because we can do something on a screen with an AI doesn't mean that we should. And it doesn't mean that we're going to get the outcomes that we want. Because sometimes the actual outcomes that we desire are less about the actual knowledge and more about the interaction between the human and the consumer, right? Either it's a student or, or someone else. So that is something that I would really caution people around, and I'm very cautious, and I'll just be honest, not very excited about AI-based education platforms, because I think students need humans that they look up to, that they want as role models more than they need reading, writing, arithmetic, right? So that's all in there.
Thank you very much.
Great
Chris,
answer. I agree with it all. I am going to give you the answer for someone who knows nothing about AI, and you're walking in here with very limited knowledge. And I apologize, there's going to be some oversimplifications for you AI experts out in the crowd. So at the end of the day, a large language model, AI, is basically predicting what the next letter or word is based on the last, whatever, 100, 200, whatever number of letters or tokens. So think of it as a really, really advanced auto-completion mechanism. So when you're typing in your phone and it gives you like 3 words that come, that's basically AI, but on a much, much bigger scale. And the other word you're going to hear a lot is transformer, which was created by Google in 2017, and they somehow didn't keep that technology innovation for themselves. I don't know whether to thank them or call them poor judgment. We can debate that. And what the transformer did was it was an attention mechanism. So it was able to look at the last 200 letters or words and say, these are more important than those. And so the next word is more likely to be this. So it just made the prediction mechanism better. So at the end of the day, AI is really, I'm going to say this at the moment, doing nothing more than predicting what the next word and idea is from the past. So don't think of it as yet creating new knowledge. It definitely doesn't know what the unknown unknowns are. So it's basically limited to the knowledge that we put in and using that knowledge to extrapolate into a conclusion, efficient use, and the like. The other thing that I think that's very important to know is when you hear large language models, you hear it's all about shoving in the information. Like, we just got to get as much data. We got to put all the internet, every book ever written. Like, we just got to put all of humanity into it, and then it'll have something to draw from, which will make it smarter. The problem with that is huge volumes, high energy. You're using, huge data centers, hugely costly. So as a result, we now do not have a product. There is not a business use product yet that exists that is highly accurate, has positive unit economics, profitable, and can be done at scale. Like, we don't yet have that. So it's very helpful in identifying trends and efficiency and all of that. And then what's fascinating is the human reaction to it, your reaction. Because when you look at it and you use it, you're like, whoa, there's got to be something in here beyond, you know, like I think we're going to be like the Turk in the box, right? It's like we're going to find out if you really understand it. And it's amazing how in 6 months we went from Terminator, it's going to kill us all, to like, stuff doesn't really work that well, right? and it's like that's a natural process for humans to go through because we're bedazzled by what it can do. But then when you try to put a use case into it and you say like, AI do this, like you're not going to have, and the thing is we don't really know how it works. And if you don't really know how it works and you can't explain the steps, you're not going to have AI manage your drone force, right? You're not going to have AI do anything that's critical or needs a high degree of accuracy. So right now, we're feeling our way for use cases, and it's definitely infiltrated your lives already. I mean, Amazon, when you buy something on Amazon, that's using AI to optimize all kinds of things for you. And so the interesting question, for those, once again, for the early AI people, the interesting question is, what's the jump going to be from a prediction model based on 200 last tokens to the next, to something that's really generating knowledge and generating new knowledge, generating, you know, looking at something and saying, okay, these are the unknown unknowns, right? To me, until the AI does that, you know, I think it's fairly limited. And once again, oversimplification. But to use another analogy, when this is all done, and we build the car, the AI car, I think I like the analogy of the LLM is going to be the door, right? The beauty of the LLM and the AI that we're in now is it gave humans an easy way to access the use of artificial intelligence. And it's the door into the car, but at the end of the day, the LLM is not going to be the engine, the chassis, the thing that drives it. And it's still unclear when that really big next jump is going to happen. There's a lot of people raising billions, if not trillions of dollars. But I'll just leave you with one fact. Walmart has committed $1 billion to spend on AI, to basically buy AI products that will help Walmart in its supply chain, sales, e-commerce, everything Walmart does. They can't spend $100 million a year because the product doesn't exist. It's like, oh, I committed to spend $1 billion in your supermarket, and you go into the supermarket and the shelves have 2 crappy products on them. And so we're a long ways away from AI transforming the business world, and uncertain how long it's coming, but uncertain how long it's going to be.
Thank you very much.
Can I say one
sensed,
thing?
yes, a reaction
so
there.
No rebuttals.
we can debate a lot, but the high level is Chris and I right now are talking to very different AI teams, very different ones. We're seeing the same things, but our understanding of what it means and where the future is going and how quickly are very different. I see a lot of AI agent adoption, but again, the problem is that there's no management of these AI agents, right? They need still a lot of training inside an enterprise context. It's not that the technology does work. It does. But it's not, it doesn't work as an expert yet, right? And it's just like humans, when they come out of college, you need to train them. Like, they don't come out being amazing at everything because it is literally like a nascent human brain.
But you will never train them to go beyond what they can be trained to do. And that's where I think AI gets
But
interesting.
no-
And so at the end of the day, when you cut through it all, right now AI creates massive efficiencies. Massive. Like, okay, you can look at a radiology chart and be more accurate than a radiologist. You can do all of those things. You can now code. For those of you that didn't learn how to code, good news. You didn't waste your time. Right? It's like 10 years ago, if you didn't learn how to code, you were going to be lost in this future world. Now it's a commodity that, so yes, it does things, but at the end of the day, does it do something yet that massive amount of humans organized properly, big ifs, I know, cannot do?
Let me throw a spanner in the works. Thank you very much. By the way, spanner in the works, bit of trivia, that idiom actually comes from the Industrial Revolution when the Luddites came after the steam engines because they were taking their jobs. And we get to the next question with this slight interdisciplinary connection. We keep putting interns, human workers, humans, future of work, and AI in kind of like the same equation. I read, Gartner said it, so it must be true, that AI is going to create 12 million more jobs globally that is going to take by 2030. Now, whichever statistic you read is going to be different from the previous one. What I'm curious about, you as a flaneur and you as an anthropologist, what are your opinions on these workers hearing this and thinking, okay, that's all very well. LLMs are still limited. Fair enough, we're not using agents as experts because they're not at that level yet. But they're going to take our jobs. And there's all these philosophical discussions about universal basic income, et cetera. But where's the reality of this? How do you feel that AI right now, in the way that it's accelerating, and humans that are bad at keeping track with that innovation and keeping pace, how are those two things kind of contradicting each other?
Yeah, I think, first of all, when AI becomes a flaneur, we will know for sure that AI is taking over. First of all, I think you need to get out of your mindset it's a 1 or a 0. Like, either AI will be doing the job or humans will be doing the job. And there will definitely be jobs that will be eliminated through AI. But the most interesting and likely aspect is your job is going to be in a partnership with AI. Right? So AI is going to be an extension of your tool set. It may even be so far as a partner. And as a result, most of the jobs are going to be transformed. It's going to make them more interesting, more productive, more powerful. And so like all technology, the people that can, like any change, what makes this one scarier is it's going to be massive. Those that can adapt and use it and understand it and know how to apply it are going to be fine, and those that do not are going to be disrupted either by AI itself or those in your sector that figure it out and then have an advantage over you. And so there's a phrase in technology called the dial toning of a technology, where the dial tone comes and you don't even think about it anymore. It's like, oh, that means I have a connection. AI will, like every technology, will happen, and it'll start to be embedded in everything you do. And you won't be saying, oh, that's AI, that's a human. Like, the world's not going to be that simple. It's going to be, oh, I'm doing this exchange of some kind, and it's being delivered to me, or I'm having access to it, or I'm having an interaction with it that's going to be partially run, operated, decided by humans, and partially run, operated by AI. And so, yes, is this going to be the most massive displacement of humans in history? For sure. And are those who are embracing it, adapting to it, and figuring out how to use it, are they going to win? However you want to define winning, that's a whole different debate. Yes. And those that do not, are they going to be likely to be the disrupted ones? Yes. But you're basically going to have like 4 categories, right? You're going to have the jobs which AI can't ever do and we don't want them to do. Jobs that are like, okay, and they're usually the bottom of the productivity, desire scale we placed. And then you're going to have jobs in the middle that are like co-partner, co-creators. And That, I think, is going to be the most interesting evolution. And then you're going to have where Tatiana is and where she's going, which is the really interesting question of how do we manage the implications of this technology? And that's going to be a whole nother field, social dimension. You know, I will say, you know, we fear technology. You know, 70% of executives say they don't have full faith in their management team, and we ask them why. It's like, well, they don't understand AI and I need help, right? So it's going to be very, very fearful. But on the positive side, like, wow, if you're going to be a lot, you know, we talk a lot about inflection points in Aspen of your leadership journey. This is a great inflection point of humanity, and it'll be fascinating to be a part of this and to be able to see it.
Thank you very much, Tatiana.
I agree with that perspective, but let's take it down to like really brass tacks. How many jobs are going to be for human workers, right, that are currently available right now in a particular enterprise? So when people say you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by a human using AI, does that mean it's a one-to-one?
No.
Replace? No, it's not. So this is where I think there's a little bit of lying or deception going on in this narrative.
Wasn't that said every time in history? Every time in history that was said, and what happened when when a technology came along?
Completely new jobs emerged and completely new industries. This is what's going to. So both of us agree on this, but let me just like make it kind of maybe clarify what we mean. You currently have a current company with 10,000 workers producing whatever it's producing. 10 years from now, it's not going to have 10,000 human workers if it's producing at the same level, because it's going to have 10,000 AI workers all working together to perform things, and then maybe, I don't know, 2,000 to 5,000 human workers, right? So in reality, 5,000 people have been displaced in the current industries that we have. What we are failing to imagine, and what humans have always failed to imagine, frankly, is what are the new things that are going to emerge as a result of this transformation. And the new things that are going to emerge are things that do not involve typing emails on a computer, answering customer service calls, driving cars around a city, right? Those things are not going to be where the new jobs emerge. There are going to be completely new skill sets in completely new industries and completely new companies that few of us can even imagine today. So it is really where our anxiety comes from is not in the numerical displacement of people from current companies, which frankly, most of those jobs that I described, are they fun jobs? Do people love going to those jobs, right? Why are we so sad that many of those jobs are going to go away if we start to imagine and create entirely new types of experiences that humans can create, that create value for other humans that they will pay for? A job is just the creation of value that someone will pay for. And the ability to imagine those new things that we can create for human beings, whether that is new forms of medicine or new communities, right? A lot of people in San Francisco see where this is going, and they are creating these incredible community spaces where people gather, and ecstatic dance communities, and they're making incredible livings doing it. Right? And these are entirely new types of jobs, entirely new types of organizations. So my kind of headline is, yes, a lot of the jobs that we know today are going away, and don't be sad about it. Embrace it. Tell your kids to embrace it. Tell your kids to embrace their creativity and go headlong into what inspires them, what gives them passion, because we have no idea how to imagine what's coming next right now.
The only interesting, I think we're in full agreement here, but the one interesting data point in the hundreds of board meetings I've done over the past few years, you get to the cost side, and they say, oh, you know, we're going into a recession. We really shouldn't hire more people. We should do a freeze, except in the world of AI. We need to hire engineers. We need to do this. So interestingly, and obviously everything we just said is going to happen, but right now, the irony is, like, every company and board meeting is like, we need AI people, we need engineers, we need people to understand it, we need to do this. So like all the hiring, marginal hiring that's going on in 2024 is for AI.
Thank
Right,
you.
because people know that these AI agents, and when they're fully formed agents, right, when they can both interact with people, talk to people, and take action, they're going to be pretty amazing. The question is how. And that's why we're spending so much money, is because everybody sees the possibility. They're like, this has got to work somehow, because we see it. The sparks of what's possible are there.
Or it just might work, and so therefore we need to be
Okay, so, you know, pessimist?
I'm not a pessimist. I'm the ultimate optimist. Let's get to optimism. Let's go.
Oh, well, you've come to the right person, yeah. Because I was about to cite George Orwell, and that's something to lift your spirits. No, it's interesting what you mentioned, because George Orwell said, like, if we don't have the phrase for it, we can't imagine it, and we are hugely restricted by language as a species. And I think, like, look, we're sitting in a dilapidated ironworks. 50, 60 years ago, the people coming to work here, going into the mine shaft, would not think that we'd be talking about robots in a circus stage about to eat $10 hot dogs, right? So it is very, it is a very difficult future to imagine. And we can go down a lot of futuristic nonsense routes. For example, on the 1900 Paris Expo, they thought that the future of travel was whales pulling underground buses. And I'm sure Greenpeace would have a lot to say about that. It is great to theorize about these things, but then people will lose that job that consists of answering emails, and they won't be placated by this conversation. And what I'm purposefully, maybe slightly controversially asking is, what are the concrete steps that we can advise to the average person in the audience, to the average person watching at home, what they can do to prepare for this completely uncertain, chaotic future? And maybe if you could be specific from your own careers, what is maybe a piece of research direction, or a particular application, or maybe a particular adaptive strategy that you thought, okay, this is great. If we kind of follow this trajectory, this is the kind of potential potion to be dealing with this uncertainty right now. How do we adapt? What can we do as regular citizens to catch up with the world of AI?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that everybody says is, if you're not using these tools right now, go and start using them, right? Start really understanding what kind of experiences and what kind of value you can get out of it. At the end of the day, remember, like, I'll repeat it again, jobs are really about finding the things that create value for other human beings that they will pay for. That's it. That's a job. Right? It's not something that's defined by an organization. And so start using these tools, see the value that it is bringing you, get inspired. Now, that inspiration can be one of two things. The first thing is that you can be inspired to say, oh, this inspires me to build a new thing with AI. Or it can inspire you to say, wow, this is going to do my crappy job much better, so why don't I go imagine something that I can do that is much more interesting and fulfilling, and start building value in a new way. So seek that inspiration for yourself, and everybody needs to really find that answer individually. And one of the things that I do also, again, as an anthropologist, I think one of the problems is that our mindset has been really skewed by the last 200 years of history, when knowledge work was at the top of the status, right? Status stack. And we think we kind of are, if we're in that field and we're kind of at the top of the knowledge work stack, we feel a great deal of anxiety at this moment. But before that, like 1,000 years ago, it wasn't knowledge workers who had the jobs, right? They were spiritual guides, and they were healers, And they had all kinds of other, and sailors, and they had all kinds of other capacities and capabilities that we have repressed in our human abilities. So if we can tap those again, those are unlikely to be done by AI, just to be clear. And so this is actually a moment I would ask us all to untap our full human potential and ask ourselves, what is it that we've been repressing as we've been trying to do the right things in school and in our graduate programs and in our jobs, corporate jobs and those types of things. And I think that is really the way forward, to be resilient, adaptable, optimistic, and really dive deep into our full human potential.
Thank you very much. Chris.
So I'm going to give an answer that's going to sound cheeky, but I'll explain it. What you should read, you should go read the book Frankenstein. And the reason you should read that book, the first horror book written, and it's about technology, written by a woman. And it was about, as you know, Dr. Frankenstein bringing a creature of various body parts back to life. And that the knowledge of that story is generally the monster went around killing people. But there's one missing little part in there. Why did the monster go around killing people, in particular wanting to kill his creator? Because the creator did not love him.
Yeah.
And the creature got mad because he was not loved. And then that sparked him to go kill the creator, try to kill the creator Frankenstein, as well as others. And so here we are in our Frankenstein moment. Right? Here we are in our Frankenstein moment. We're creating potentially a Frankenstein. And so yes, the first advice is learn it, bring it in, right? Learn to love it, right? Stop treating it like this thing. It is an extension of our humanity. At the end of the day, everything a human creates is part of humanity. The other thing that's really important is wherever you are, just for self-preservation, stay in the loop, right? AI is going to come into your world. Whatever that feedback loop of how AI is used, be in that loop. Like, run toward it. Even if you don't have AI knowledge, don't hold back. Just say, oh, okay, I'm in this company, AI is coming in, embrace it. Only then can you frankly figure out your path forward, and only then, hopefully, in the case of Moonshot and others, you're the people that we need to be in that loop and in that conversation. And this is going to be, you're not going to be able to predict. There's going to be amazing good uses for AI, and there's going to be a lot of bad uses for AI. This is just going to exacerbate the poles of goodness and evil. And there's going to be a really interesting bifurcation of the use cases, of the results, and ultimately it's going to be an interesting battle. And I don't want to be at all, cliche of good, evil, but there is going to be a battle over who decides how it's used. How do we come together to figure out how we manage it appropriately when we've done a very poor job historically of managing much less dynamic elements than AI. We failed miserably. Let's face it, evolution has just come from the adoption of something, the misuse of something, the crisis that comes from it, and then the reaction from the crisis. So the really interesting thing I think going forward is going to be, we are going to misuse AI. It's just going to happen. There is going to be a crisis, and then we are going to react to that crisis. I think it's, Tatiana's going to do her best to be out in front of this, but I think it's very proactively difficult to manage the misuse, overuse, even with good intentions that happens, of AI, and then we're going to have to respond to the 2 steps forward, 1 step back process of technology evolution.
Did you want to comment?
Well, I love it.
She always wants to comment. So anyway,
no, I was going to say,
I
love your point about love.
Yes.
Because the way that we meet this moment with without anxiety and fear is to lean into love. Lean into love and respect of each other, and lean into love and respect of the technology. Because it is really important at this moment to lessen and take down the heat of the, kind of very quick knee-jerk reactions in terms of, this is threatening, this is not threatening. Sometimes the things that you think are threatening are the challenges that make us grow the most. And to the extent that we can say, how do we love this new world that's emerging? How do we love these new workers that we're working alongside? And in my field with our platform, it's really important for us to use really respectful language when we talk about AI agents, because we don't want AI to be perceived as slaves to humanity, right? And this is part of the kind of thing about actually loving and respecting the technology, because that also reflects back into how we love and respect other humans.
Thank you.
And one other thing about love is you're going to be rewarded for bringing humanity into an AI-driven world, right? So AI is going to, in many ways, become a commodity, and the interesting element is how we all keep and bring. You're going to be paid a premium for bringing a human product, service, perspective to our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would sit here for another several hours with you two, but unfortunately we do have to end. We have to end a little bit early because I'm running off to moderate a cosmology debate on the Big Bang stage. So if anyone wants to come, there'll be AI there too, so you won't lose the thread. Just to summarize very briefly, AI is fundamentally human. It is a human thing. There are human questions that we've kind of been pondering for the last thousands of years, but we do have to treat it with respect. We do have to treat it with love, but we do also have to be resilient. We don't know where AI will lead us. AI doesn't exist in a vacuum. We've got other technologies like virtual, augmented, extended reality. We have blockchain. We've got cryptocurrencies. We've got the metaverse, whatever that means. And we've got a huge mosaic of a very wide variety of technologies that we need to adapt to. One of the things that is important for each and every one of us to survive in this jungle is cybersecurity. Please, 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 before you upload your data somewhere, before you put your sensitive data into ChatGPT, remember who owns these big tech companies. Remember where that data goes. Remember where that database is. Because the way and the world that we know it, which are currently nation states, might be completely redefined in our lifetime. There's already talk of network states, various cloud civilizations. Like, the world around us is changing. And fundamentally, we are in a circus, and a lot of this is smoke and mirrors as well. So be prepared to cut through the nonsense, be aware, be educated. One course, if I can recommend, our Scandinavian brothers and sisters realized how important digital literacy is for the everyday person to be resilient in times of crises. I'm not plugging some course, don't worry, it's free. And it's called Elements of AI, and it's about 25 languages. And there's a follow-up as well called Building AI. If you want to get the basics, please, please go and do that, and also look into the basics of cybersecurity so that you're ready to enter the digital jungle. But above all, don't forget to be human, because that's what we've got, and we're not on this planet for a long time. So treat it and technology with respect. And thank you so much again to Chris Varelas and Tatiana Mahmood. Thank you.